welcome to It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you back the memories of Grand Prairie of the past and to talk with those that have continued on, possibly not living in Grand Prairie, but having close ties with Grand Prairie, Texas. This is history tape number 52, and we're taping this for October the 4th, 1987. And we're so pleased today to have special guests from California to bring back memories of not only their past in Grand Prairie, Texas, but also to salute a very special family that was very meaningful to the east part of Grand Prairie way back when. Effie Langford McDermott, we're so delighted to welcome you today.
Thank you, it's good to be here.
Wonderful. And Deborah Langford Lawson, how wonderful of you to come back and be with us today.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, now to set the stage, we're going to talk about the C.E. Langford family. And Effie, since you are out into the public eye a lot and past Planning and Zoning Commission chairman in your wonderful town in, let's see,
Pismo Beach.
Pismo Beach, California.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. We'd like for you to set the stage for the talk that we're going to have about your dad and your mom, and tell us a little bit about C.E. Langford and his part of the family.
Well, Daddy and Mama came to Grand Prairie, to Burbank Gardens,
All right.
in about 1937.
All right.
And Daddy put in the waterworks that served the Burbank Gardens subdivision. He laid all the lines himself. He dug the ditches by hand. He put the meters in. He read the meters himself. Mother did the bookkeeping. And they served the subdivision with water for about 18 years until the city of Grand Prairie annexed the area and took it in and bought the water service lines from them.
All right, now, before we get into the personal genealogy of your dad and your mom, could you tell me this? When they moved to Grand Prairie, did they acquire the land and possibly a well, or did he dig the well? Or tell us how that came about, if you have a knowledge of that, Effie.
Well, what I've always been told is that Minnie Bowles owned the area, and Daddy, she offered Daddy some lots in exchange for him coming in and putting in his business, which would serve her property and thereby make it marketable because it would have running water. And he would have the opportunity also then to have a business which he would own entirely himself. So they came in and put the water company on the corner of Northeast 29th and Bowles Street. It occupied 2 lots there, and he incorporated it. He served between 400 and 500 customers when it reached its peak. And we all grew up there. He raised a passel of kids while he was there. There were 8 of us in all. 4 of us were born in Grand Prairie. And I was the first baby born in Plattner's Clinic.
All right,
when it
the
was on
Plattner Clinic.
Main Street, I was the first baby. My mother tells me that Dr. Plattner had returned from his honeymoon and was a little disorganized and not quite ready to start delivering babies yet when I came along, and she went, you know, she had to have me right now.
That's it.
So my birth wasn't registered. My daddy had to give her the anesthesia, the anesthetic, and then I had 3 more brothers and sisters born there after me.
All right.
So
you've raised a wonderful question. The old Bowles home was located in the middle of Northeast 29th Street and Bowles Street, and was moved to the west about a block and a half. And I'm wondering if the well that your dad had was the original well, possibly, that went with the old Jordan Bowles home place, or did he dig that well? Are you knowledgeable about that?
well, Daddy drilled 2 wells.
He drilled the 2 wells.
He drilled 2 wells, but there was an old well in the field on the corner of 28th and Bowles, and we were forbidden as children to go in the field because there was an open well in the field.
Wonderful, wonderful. We may be able to locate the old well.
It was definitely, there was an old well there.
And we have been looking for that old well, and that is wonderful for you to tell us. And it's probably covered up by one of the homes that's there.
I don't know where it was because I minded my mama, and I never went in that field because I was afraid I'd fall in that well.
Wonderful.
But that's where it was.
All right, now you've set the stage. Your dad was an entrepreneur in the water business, had his own waterworks, and there's not many privately owned waterworks. And all because Miss Minnie Bowles, who owned the Jordan Bowles home and the ranch in that area, brought him here to serve the new community, which was laid out as Burbank Gardens. All right, now, let's go back to genealogy. We need to get a record of your dad's name. I know it's C.E. Could you fill in the initials for us?
Well, his name was Caleb Earl Langford, Jr.
Wonderful.
And he was born in 1893.
Do you know where he was?
Bowie, Texas.
In Bowie, Texas. Good.
And he died in July of 1974 in Sherman or Denison. He was living just over the border in Cartwright, and he was brought over to a hospital. And he is buried at the old cemetery where his family lived in Indian Territory, which is now Byers, Oklahoma. And he's buried next to his mother and his father, which was his last request.
That is
And
wonderful.
so we took him up there, and that's part of our trip. That's one of the reasons we're back in Grand Prairie, is because we're visiting the cemetery and looking up old friends and
doing the things
Doing
of
them.
history. All right. Now, your mother, let's get your mother's maiden name and give us a little fill-in about her, where she came from, please.
Mother's family was the Loomis family, that's L-U-M-M-U-S, of Leon County, and Olisa, which I believe is Limestone County. She was born in 1917 and shortly thereafter was orphaned. Her father's name was Pleasant Montgomery Loomis, L-U-M-M-U-S. Her mother's name was Rachel Elizabeth Allman, and her mother's family had the general store in Olathe, Texas. They had the cornmeal, the cotton gin, and so forth. However, mother was orphaned, and she and her two sisters were put in the Methodist home in Waco, Texas, and that is where she essentially was raised as an orphan.
Yes. And she and your dad married, and when she was very young.
Mother was 17 and Daddy was 42, and it was a May to September marriage, and her family was dead set against it. They hid her out, and he sent a traveling hosiery saleswoman house to house and with a description of her until she found my mother and called her aside and said, Steeple, as he was called then because he was a steeplejack, said, Steeple wants to talk to you, you know, and Mama was in love with Steeple and Steeple was in love with Mama, you know, so they managed to get together and they, against her family's wishes, got married.
And where did they live when they first married?
He was a steeplejack, which meant he went from town to town painting water tanks and flagpoles and anything tall, smokestacks, whatever. And they traveled around a bit until their third child was born, which was my sister Pearl. And within 2 weeks after that, they settled in Grand Prairie.
In Grand Prairie, Texas, in the northeast area.
At 617 Northeast 29th, and that's where I lived all my childhood.
That's wonderful. We're going to get back to you in a few minutes because we're going to get around to the childhood, and we're going to let Deborah have her day in court here and tell about when she was born in Grand Prairie, where she went to school, because we know that you all probably went to the same grade school, so we're going to let her tell that part of our story. And Deborah, would you look out into your camera and tell us about being raised up in Burbank Gardens and being with your parents and both of them working real hard at the waterworks, and you're growing up, and what did you do as a kid to play and do all of these things before you started to school?
Well,
did you play with the neighborhood kids?
oh yes, I used to go across the street and play with Myrna Lee Holloman,
All right.
and it was a lot of fun. And her mother used to wash my hair a lot and all that.
And that's Fanny Holloman.
Yes.
All right.
And I used to go down the street, down the hill, and I'd play with Anna Marie Clymer, now known as Ragsdale. Her last name is Ragsdale now.
All right.
And we're staying with her right now. And she's a real good friend, lots of fun.
And as you would play in the neighborhood and you grew up in this neighborhood, what school did you attend down in that neighborhood?
I went to Fannin.
To Fannin School. Wonderful. And good old James W. Fannin Elementary now. Who was the principal? And maybe name some of your teachers and some of your classmates that really impressed you.
See, I remember Mr. King was the principal.
All right.
I think I had a teacher by the name of Filippo,
Miss Flippo, yes, Miss Charles Flippo. Good.
And I remember I wanted to start school early. My birthday is in September.
Uh-huh.
And the end of September. And they wouldn't let me start school early. And because of that, it seems like when I finally did start school, I was older than everyone else, and got behind. And anyway, so I always hated school. But I was anxious to start school in the beginning until that happened.
Until they made you wait an extra year.
Because I was so much older than everyone else.
Yes, yes.
And
well, did you help, what did you do around the house? What were your duties around home? Did you help Mom do anything like set the table, or did you have any chores to do?
oh, yes. I remember our house was, you know, quite a big mess because of so many kids. And but I remember,
Can you name all the kids in order, even the ones that were not born in Grand Prairie? Can you start out and give us the older one and give us their names? Why don't you do that for me?
There was
all right.
Ruthie.
All right.
And Pal.
Okay.
And Nell. And Effie. And myself. And Jimbo.
Oh yes, let's not forget Jimbo.
And there was Richard and Penny. Anyway, okay, what else?
All right, we had your entire family, and Jimbo was the younger, was he not? Was he the baby? Who was the baby?
Oh, let's not forget Penny.
Oh, yes.
You named Penny.
Yes.
Oh,
okay. Penny's the baby, right?
There was Jimbo, Richard, then Penny.
All right.
Yes. Let me finish telling you about cleaning house.
All right.
I remember since we had so many kids, you know, the house would be a mess, and I hated school so much. I'd tell my mother, I'd say, if you just let me stay home from school, I'll clean the house. I'll do anything. Just don't make me go to school. And I would clean the house and the washateria. And I remember a special treat that I had with my mother and my father. By doing those chores, those special chores, they say, all right, you do that, and we'll take you to the cafe, you know, for coffee and donuts in the morning. And that was a big treat to me. I loved it. And those special times like that, I'll never forget, because it meant a lot to me. Going down to Downs Cafe, I believe it was. It's on the left-hand side of the street.
Yes, it is.
It's not there now.
No, it is not there now.
And if somebody had a picture of it, I'd love to see it.
Yes, that is exciting.
That was a real special place to me, going there.
All right. Now, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned a clue there, the washateria. What about this washateria? Who owned the washateria? Where was it located?
On the same grounds, right next door.
All right.
Yeah.
Did that belong to your parents also?
Yes. Our dad built the house and the washateria.
All right.
And
so he not only ran the waterworks and all of the things that pertain to that, he also had a washateria. Was it one of the first in Grand Prairie, Texas? It certainly was the first in northeast area of Grand Prairie, wasn't it?
I believe so.
All right. Now, Effie, I want you to tell us a little bit about your dad. He was always driving a great big Cadillac, and he had a great big Stetson hat, and he was very impressive. Tell us what you kids did to help him in delivering the water bills. I think that's classic.
Well, we, since Mother had excess manpower, and everything was close by, and we ran the streets and knew everybody anyhow,
Yes.
we delivered them by hand. And Mother would drive, and she would put them in order, by house, and she would have them in little packets by block. And we would write on the fenders of the car, and that was the most fun in the world. It's because, you know, when you're a kid, you love to run and jump fences and leap over hedges and
Yes.
everything. So we would run, and everybody had a screen door, and it had a little handle on it, and those water bills were yellow and about this size, and they fit perfectly in those handles. The wind wouldn't blow them away. So we ran house to house and had the bills in order and just stuck them in the door. The minimum was $2.50 for water then, and some people went over the minimum. It might go like to $5. $30 was a huge water bill then. It was a huge water bill
Yes.
then. And so we would deliver them by hand, then we would run back to the car and we would jump on the fender. And Mother would keep driving, you know, so we got to ride on the fender, which was a lot of fun, and we really enjoyed it.
All right, now.
We knew all the dogs. You know.
You knew all the dogs. You knew all of the customers.
We knew
too.
who didn't have a screen door with a good handle, and they were a lot of trouble to us because we had nowhere to put the water bill.
All right, now, who did the collecting? Who collected the money for the bills? Did they come to pay you, or did they send you back to get money?
Sometimes we went to collect if Mother saw fit that we should go collect, but we manned the office sometimes for Mother, and they would come to the office and they'd pay their water bill. And I remember a time or two, my older sisters and I making change and so forth. And I'm certainly no whiz at math, but I wound up working the most years in the water company because I was standing there one day and I was about yay high. And my older sisters, the water bill was $3.50, and they were giving him $2.50 change from a $5 bill. And I said, no, it's $1.50. My mother fired them and hired me.
Wonderful, because you,
So
you were in the program.
I could subtract $3.50 from $5, you know, so I got hired immediately, you know, because that was very common. You know, you had to know the different amounts, you know. So most people came. But if they were late, Mother would send us collecting, you know, for the water bills.
All right.
And she carried all the money in a bag. She had a money bag, you know.
She was strictly the cashier.
Strictly the cashier, bookkeeper, and she ran the washateria.
I understand that your dad did seat all of the water meters and laid the lines and all of this.
He did it all by hand.
And I had a friend the other day that told me a wonderful story on your dad. Said that your dad, if there was someone in Burbank Gardens that didn't act just exactly right, they didn't get a water meter and they didn't get water service. They had to be very upstanding citizens, or he screened his customers.
Well, I don't know about that, because there were a few I don't think he cared for and they had water. So.
Some of them had water that
But
he didn't
I do
care
remember
for.
from time to time, if you know how sometimes your water, by the way, it was excellent water. I've never had as good water since I've left here. You know, and I always remember how good the water tasted in Grand Prairie from those artesian wells. But I remember from time to time someone would call the house and accuse Daddy of washing his feet in the tanks, you know.
All right. Whatever happened to the old water tank that was there on 29th Street?
Well, Daddy didn't sell the equipment to the city. He sold only the lines and meters and customer service. He didn't sell the wells to the city either, nor the land, nor the tanks. And he moved to Cartwright, Oklahoma. He bought some property and he subdivided 6 lots. He named the street Langford Street, and he put in a little water system, and that Burbank Gardens water tank is still standing in Cartwright, Oklahoma. We were just there last week and we saw it.
Wonderful to know that history, and now we have found the clue to tell us where the water tank was moved to Oklahoma. How wonderful. And are the wells still on Northeast 29th to your knowledge?
They're there and they're capped.
They're there and they're
They're there. Yeah, the city could go and probably re-drill right there and get good water again.
Wonderful.
I understand you have lake water.
Yes, we have some lake water. All right. Now, Effie, we didn't get into your part of the school. Now, we've talked to Deborah about her tenure at school. Where did you begin school?
Well, I went first, second, and third grades to Fannin. I don't mean Fannin, I mean Idlewild. And we went back out to Idlewild this week also.
Tell us where Idlewild is located.
Idlewild is now in the Elks Lodge.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
And that school was so big and so tall when we were little. And we went back there, and it is so tiny. It was the entire school. I believe it had 6 grades when we were there.
It had 7 grades.
Okay, and it had outdoor toilets that were
Yes.
way down behind it in the fields, at a girls and a boys,
Exactly.
and the swings and the little merry-go-round and whatnot. And I went there through the 3rd grade, and then they built the new Fannin School, which, by the way, is not the Fannin School
That's there now. No.
It's now administration building
Right.
on the corner of, what would that be, about Reinhardt and 28?
27.
27th, okay.
The new school's on 28.
Right, okay. Well, anyhow, that was the school then. And I went there through then the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades.
Who were some of your teachers, and who was your principal? At the
Mr.
old
Kane.
Idlewild. Mr. Kane
Well,
was
I
it?
don't remember. I was very small then.
Uh-huh.
But I believe he was principal at Idlewild, too.
Okay.
But I know he was the principal at Fannin. And my 1st grade teacher was Mrs. Lee, whom I will never forget. I can see her sweet face right now. She hugged us all the time. She was very good. And then my 2nd grade teacher, I believe, was Mrs. Flippo. My 3rd grade teacher was Mrs. Coker. I remember her very well.
Yes.
I remember my sister Nell coming into my 3rd grade class and making me stand up in front of the class and sing with her to my own class, which was the most humiliating, embarrassing thing for a person in the 3rd grade.
Yes.
You know, but Nell was such a ham. You know, she was always doing it. She also drugged me up to the Uptown Theater to the talent contest. You know, she would
Wonderful.
make me sing. She sang harmony and I sang melody, therefore I had to be with her, you know. And I was a very bashful person, but I was always with Nell on stage, wherever she was, you know. And Nell, by the way, has not left the stage. She has become a PhD, and she's been on the Phil Donahue Show, and she's been real active in comparable worth and the women's movement and so forth. And she still drags me everywhere she goes.
A semi-product of the Grand Prairie School.
Oh, yes, that Nell. She was always really something. Anyhow, everybody remembers Nell.
All right, and did you go on to Jefferson Middle School?
I was in Jefferson until the middle of the 9th grade.
All right.
And that was when we moved.
That's when you
That was
moved
when we
from
moved.
Grand Prairie, Texas.
From Grand Prairie, Texas.
Uh-huh. Do you
So it was-
remember anyone at Jefferson, the principal or any of the players there?
No, you know, when they broke us up into separate classrooms, I do remember that I was not allowed to take shop. I wanted to take shop,
So
but
you
that
could
was
follow
for
in your
boys.
dad?
No, I just wanted to take shop, and I was forced to take homemaking instead, which was good because I learned to fry an egg. You know, but back then the girls took the girls' classes and the boys took the boys' classes.
Well, of the ones born in Grand Prairie and going to Grand Prairie schools, would you like to tell us where any of your brothers or sisters are located so that we'll have that on our history tape?
Well, Ruth is living in San Diego, California.
What is her married name?
Mitchell.
Ruth Mitchell.
Mitchell. She is quite well-to-do. She did very well for herself. She is a retired real estate broker. Pearl is the administrator of the St. Paul, the office of the St. Paul Hospital in Dallas. Pearl never left.
Her full name now?
Pinkerton.
All right.
Mrs. James Pinkerton. She never left the area.
Good.
She's still a loyal Texan, and she sent us a "Don't Mess with Texas" bumper sticker.
And she's in Garland, I believe?
She's back in Dallas.
Oh, she's back in Dallas. Wonderful.
Nell, of course, is a doctor now, and she lives in California. She lives in Pismo Beach, where I live. She's been on Take Two on CNN. She's been on the Phil Donahue Show. And Mrs. Downs? Am I getting that right?
Yes.
Mrs.
Miss Willie
Downs?
Downs?
Yes, she saw her on the Phil Donahue Show and told
Good.
all the neighbors, I saw that Nellie Langford on the Phil Donahue Show. You know, because Nell goes by Langford.
Yes.
She's Dr. Nell Langford.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm a real estate broker, and I live in California.
Tell us about your family.
Well, I have grown children.
Tell us about them.
I have a son who is in the Army in Georgia right now.
All right.
My daughter is going to school in Santa Barbara. She's going to be a radiologist. I have another daughter who's still in high school, another son studying to be an electrician. And my husband and I live in a home that we built 4 years ago in Pismo Beach. And we're 2.5 blocks from the ocean and love the weather in Pismo Beach.
And what do you do for a living, Effie?
I'm in real estate.
You're in real estate.
Yeah, I managed to invest in California when the
Good.
time was right to do that, and I managed property.
Good.
and run away to Texas with my sister Deborah once every 25 years, whenever I get the chance to see our old friends.
Good. We're going to come back to you in a few minutes, and if we have time, and let you talk just a little bit about your mom.
Okay.
We want to get something on your mom, and don't let us forget that. All right. Deborah, tell us a little bit about your immediate family and where you live in California, in San Bernardino, and give us your husband's name and your kids' names and all of the good stuff.
Well, I live in San Bernardino, and my husband's name is Tom Lawson. And let's see, I have 2 children.
All right.
Kathy, 23 years old now, and a son, Johnny, and he's going to be 21 in October. And I have 2 wonderful grandchildren, and by my daughter, Kathy. And there's Micah, he's 4 years old, and my granddaughter is 14 months. And I just...
Do you work out of the home?
No, I don't. I married a certified dental technician. He makes false teeth.
And all of the good things?
And bridges in the mouth and all that.
So you get to stay home and be a mom?
Yes. And my teachers, all my teachers used to tell me, you know, Deborah had better marry somebody that can support her, because she can't do it herself. So I did.
That's wonderful. You attained your goal, didn't you? All right. Effie, let's get back to your mom and tell us about your mom now. We know you lost your dad, but tell us about your mommy.
Mama lives next door to me in Pismo Beach, California, in a little apartment that we have.
And her given name that she's called?
Rochelle Catherine Loomis, and her name is Eaton now,
All right.
and she's 70 years old, very happy, you know, just, and of course is very proud of all of her children. Richard, by the way, is career Navy, and Penny is in TV and promotion in San Diego, and Jimbo is still running around the country.
Yes. As you called him, your Rolling Stone.
He's our Rolling Stone.
Oh, that is wonderful. Is there any...
He drives a concrete truck, cement truck.
Well, great. Well, is there anything that you'd like to tell us, Effie? Anything that impressed you about Grand Prairie when you were here and your good memories of that? We have about 2 more minutes, and we want to wind down with your last statements.
Well, Grand Prairie was a wonderful place to grow up. It really was. We come back to see the pecan tree in Bowles Park. Every time we come to town, we take our picture with the pecan tree, and we just have the warmest, fondest memories of Grand Prairie.
And you do plan to come back and visit us again, maybe?
Every 25 years, whether you need it or not.
Whether we need it or not. Oh, that is so bad. Good. Deborah, it is so wonderful to have had you on the show. And Effie, it's been wonderful to have you too. And Zana Jackson Young sent special love to you this morning by telephone, and sorry she couldn't be here to share this interview with us because y'all were wonderful classmates together. I want to thank y'all for coming back and bringing C.E. Langford to life again and giving us so many wonderful, good historic tips, and especially about the old water tank. Thank you. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.